is the best way to say it? Like, I loved food. I loved eating food. I loved every emotion that I had, happy, sad, angry, bored, whatever. It was tied to food. And so I had to really break that way of thinking, that mindset, and fill it with something else. And I just find that the carnivore foods, that really helped me. But it wasn't until I found the carnivore community, because this is
all right. Carnivore Soldier coming at you from Austin, Texas. Today we got another podcast. This is the Carnivore Way. And today we've got Ellie from Nourishment Redacted. She's been carnivore for quite a while now, over a year, I believe now. And she's had a massive transformation in her life. She's a carnivore mom and wife. And I just want to interview her and talk about her journey and how she deals with being a carnivore in her busy life. So let's bring her on. Hi, Ellie.
Hi, Larry. Thanks so much for having me on your channel.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Listen, some people don't know who you are. And I know it's hard to believe because you're so famous on YouTube. But why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, your age, that kind of thing, like what your life is like, kind of, and just introduce yourself a little bit.
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. If we haven't met before, my name is Ellie. I'm 34 years old. I'm a wife, a mother of 2. I have a 4-year-old daughter and an almost 2-year-old son, which is crazy to me. And I started I lived my life as someone who always kind of faked a smile, who was someone who always trying to please others, trying to make other people feel better, even though I was in pain. I wouldn't let others in on what was really going on with me. And I think that's so sad, because I think that I'm actually very blessed to have a lot of people in my life who were very supportive of me. But I had this insecurity that my voice was not to be heard and that I shouldn't share. And so with those insecurities, I was a pretty healthy kid, metabolically healthy kid. I would say that my weight started going up after high school. I think that happens a lot for people. I think that my bad eating habits were finally catching up with me. So I was definitely a volume eater. I was an emotional eater, and I was addicted, and still kind of addicted, to media, watching videos, watching movies, video games, and I don't want to use the word addicted in a derogatory way, because it's not like I was properly diagnosed or anything like that, but I just feel like it consumes my life too much. And so with being a sedentary person and having these bad eating habits, my weight started climbing up. My mental health continued to decline. And so my highest weight ever was 240 pounds. And it's so sad to think back on what my life used to be like before I found this way of eating. I suffered with depression, and I had panic attacks, and I had some symptoms of depersonalization disorder. And those mental illnesses, they really were, it was kind of like a shadow that was placed over me. But I kept trying to be a bright, happy person, regardless of all that. And when things in life became too tough and too scary, I would just crack. And that was me, dropping out of college, which I had always aspired to do. I was about 80% done with my bachelor's degree. And I had this one episode that was really bad, where I started having an out-of-body experience, which is kind of like what depersonalization disorder is. And I was so scared, because I could look down and say, oh, this is my body. These are my hands and my feet but I did not recognize them as my own. It was this really weird, bizarre kind of experience. And ever since then, so I ended up dropping out of college. I stayed home, and luckily for me, I found the love of my life, who is my husband today, but we were engaged at the time, and he stuck by me and supported me. But there was many years where I did not do anything. I and I just continued to gain weight and was miserable. And that was about 5 years of my life after dropping out of college. And it wasn't until I found the keto diet, this was in 2018, that I was just like, I had stumbled upon it on YouTube, and I was so surprised to learn that you can eat hamburgers and bacon and butter and lose weight. And that was just mind-boggling to me, because I was somebody who always was trying to follow the eat less, move more, even though I was 240 pounds with horrible knee pain because I had dislocated one knee when I was in middle school, and I had a hairline fracture in my other knee when I was in high school. And I feel I don't talk about this too often, but I feel like my knees are kind of like, and this is such a weird metaphor, I guess, but it's like, imagine a ball being placed underwater and you're trying to control that ball, and it just keeps like shifting back and forth. So I definitely had horrible knees. So it was difficult for me to move around, and it was difficult, being that size, and my thighs were so large because I carry everything waist down majority. I had inflammation everywhere though. And my thighs would rub so much. I would have boils, and I would have, like, the skin was starting to deteriorate from the rubbing. I'd have skin tags, and there would be like small forms were about to form. And so I was just so desperate to get out of this body that I knew that was holding me back. And so when I found keto, I did it successfully for 6 months. And all of these, I'm going to tell you a bunch of symptoms that alleviated when I did keto. My depression lifted, no more anxiety. My period was irregular, and it was sometimes every 3 months I'd get it. Sometimes it'd be 2 months, 1 month. It was never consistent, and extremely painful and very heavy. And so that got resolved and became normal to the point where I could get pregnant. I lost 53 pounds in those 6 months. My skin cleared up. My energy was skyrocketing. I had confidence, and I was so happy for the first time in my life. And when I went to the doctor, you find out you're pregnant, you start going to the doctor, and she had asked what my diet was, and I told her I ate keto, and she told me that you're going to harm your baby if you continue to eat keto, which is just mind-boggling to me. Yeah, I know, right? It's awful. And I had a panic. I really was terrified that I was going to do that. So all of a sudden started having meat aversions. I started having a lot of nausea. And so I just I just listened, and I stopped eating the ketogenic diet. And, things slowly started coming back, the depression. And luckily I didn't gain too much weight from that pregnancy. And then, life went on, and I was so tired all the time, and I was really struggling. I could not produce breast milk for my baby. And even though they told me, just eat oatmeal and eat lots of carbs and you'll start producing milk, which is not true at all. Wow. It's actually fat, which helps produce breast milk. But I did not know that at the time. And I kept trying to go back to keto, but my sugar cravings came back. My carb addiction and my sugar and carb cravings came back, and I would do keto for a week and I'd fail, do keto for a week and fail. And then, so time passed. I had my son, and he was a healthy little boy. And then I was watching some lectures from Dr. Jordan Peterson. I really admire and really enjoy his work, because I have a big passion about improving myself. And I think that he's very inspiring. So I started learning about his diet, and I was like, oh, wow, maybe I should, try this. This is kind of like keto 2.0. This would really get me out of the addictions with carbs and sugar. And I had tried it for a while. I was about 4 or 5 months into it, and my son turned 6 months old. And this is when we started introducing solids to him. And so his first foods were eggs. His first foods were steak, which I love. I love that. And I accidentally ate some old meat in my fridge. And so I had food poisoning. So it really wrecked me. And I was like, I can't eat meat. I started having all these meat aversions, but I kept my son on it. So my son, who is now going to be turning 2, has been more consistent on carnivore than I have. But
If you like my content, if you find value in my content and like my channel, please like and subscribe and click the notification bell so you see my new videos as soon as they come out. Also, please share this and other videos on social media, especially to veterans and first responders, who, as I say in many of my videos, are often suffering in silence. You never know who's hurting, and a video like this might just turn someone around. So please go ahead and share it, and thanks for your viewership and your support.
But I ended up eventually coming back to carnivore about 13 months ago. And my highest weight at that time was 202 pounds. So I did not gain all the weight back. And my depression lifted within 30 days. And that's really surprising considering that I dislocated my knee 4 or 5 days after starting the carnivore diet. I slipped on some water in my kitchen. And this is, like I said earlier, it's a repeat injury. And I was in so much immense pain the first night because obviously, it was a pretty harsh injury. But I was happy. I was actually really happy, and I had tons of energy before I dislocated it. I was going on walks and I felt so incredible. So even though I was bedridden for like the first month or two, and then I eventually got a wheelchair and crutches, and it was just a really dark time because it's just my husband and I. We can't really rely on other people to watch our children for us, and I'm very protective of my children. And so it would have crushed me to know that I can't fulfill my job as a mother and a wife. And yet I felt fantastic eating burgers and lamb and butter and salt. And so mental health was fantastic. Weight was fantastic. The irregular periods, they went back to normal. I no longer had dandruff. I no longer smelled bad. I felt like I was constantly having to wear deodorant. That's no longer an issue anymore. And overall, I feel confident within myself. I don't feel like a doormat anymore. I don't feel like somebody who's a pushover, and I feel really strong and confident in my way. And this is these past 13 months is technically my second attempt at carnivore, and I don't see myself stopping at this point. I was inspired by Carrie from Homestead Hal, and he told everyone to make a YouTube channel and to share your pain, and don't forget your pain so that you can continue to heal. And that was something I kept forgetting. And I think that's why I failed so much with keto in the past, because I would feel good and then I would just kind of go, oh, it's okay if I eat this. And so it's been a wild ride since then.
I think I did keto for on and off in this 2017, 2018, getting ready for military schools and such. And it worked because you could lose weight and get your energy up and get ready, physically fit for a school. And I'd always say, I'm going to stay on it this time. That's what I always say. And then I would, you're actually managing, you're counting carbs, you're checking your ketones, you're blowing in or whatever, do your ketones, and you're monitoring all this thing. And to me, it's like you're managing your addiction. It's like, I'm only going to drink one beer each night, right? Instead of getting a 12-pack. And that's what it feels like. It's so easy to slip off, because once you have one bad day, it's like, oh, I'm at a birthday party, I'm just going to let it go. Then you just go full on. You're like, well, I might as well make it the weekend now. And then the weekend's gone, and now you're into the week, and you're still eating ice cream and cake or Oreos or whatever. And you're like, I'll just get back on, and it just doesn't happen. And so for me, managing the addiction is not a thing I can do. And I have to do it this way, which a cheat for me now would be like doing the ice cream with stevia. Like, that's a cheat, and really, I mean, it's still keto, right? So if keto is your cheat, that's not too bad, right? That I never have. And if I ever get where sometimes, like, if I do something like that and the next night I have like a sweet craving, I can just fast for 24 hours and then the cravings are gone, because I'm already in this state of ketosis. I don't think I ever leave it, but you got to learn your body. And it's kind of becoming a carnivore is you hone your skills, right? I think. Yeah. Now you're talking about your depression and everything. I had that too, because I was always athletic and physically fit, and you had a pretty good, adult life up till, right before COVID and all this and all these things happened. And I got way out of shape. I felt like a shadow of the man I used to be. And I didn't feel any hope that there was any way to turn it around. I felt like I was a shadow of what I was, and there's no way that I could get back to what I was before. So I thought I'd just like gradually go down this decline in health and die, like my dad's doing, kind of, and just like hopefully I'll make it to 80. That's kind of what I thought, maybe if I'm lucky, and I won't get too sick where I'll stay out of the hospital. That's really all I had. Now my life has changed completely. It's like I have plans. I'm looking at investment properties. I just bought a Porsche. I'm like driving a sports car. I'm hitting the gym. I mean, my life is like, I'm doing things I always wanted to do and always put off. And I'm like, I'm just going to live for now and plan for the future. So I'm doing both. And I wasn't doing either. And so what I ask you is, when you were sick, metabolically ill, how did that make you feel as a woman, a wife, a mother? Like, what did you feel?
Mm-hmm.
And what do you feel now as a carnivore? Like, what's changed?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I've always admired my husband. I find him to be very intelligent and very kind and understanding. And for the longest time, he never saw my weight, because when we started, I've known him since I was 15 years old. He was 17 years old. And we were friends for a really long time. And then when we were in our early 20s, we decided to start dating. And, we've been together like 13 years now. And he never realized how unhealthy I was getting, because he always just loved me unconditionally. We look back on these old photos of myself and him, and it's just unbelievable how much I've changed. I mean, sure, we look a little younger. I mean, he looks younger too, but it's like my face was literally like so round, and I was so, it's disgusting to me. Like, I'm just being honest. I find myself, I'm disgusted by myself, and I'm just like, how could you love that? But he loved my soul, and he loved my mind, and and we had been through so much together. And so he was actually the first person who told me, because he has ulcerative colitis. So my husband has ulcerative colitis. He's been battling that since he was 18 years old. He's almost died like 3 or 4 times. He was on feeding tubes and all this stuff. Very, very difficult life that he had. And he's the first person to tell me, you need to look at the ingredients on a package. You need to stop eating fast food. You need to stop drinking soda. And so he was like the very beginning of someone who was going to help me with my weight. But he didn't have the knowledge that we have now about the importance of fat and cholesterol and protein. Everything was, salads and lean chicken. Yeah. And it's not his fault. He didn't know, but he at least was saying, you need to stay away from TBHQ and BHA. Like, meanwhile, I had never even heard of what those things are. And so my marriage and my relationship and my marriage with my husband before compared to now pales in comparison, because now I'm able to keep up with him. Now I'm able to, be on the same level almost, because it's like he'd be walking and we'd be going to do something and having fun. And I'd be like, oh, hold on, I got to take a rest. Or, I felt like I was behind, and he never made me feel like that. But that was the truth.
Your 20s?
In my 20s. I'm 34 now. And it's like in my early 20s is like when you're supposed to be at your peak, and I was struggling just to so if it wasn't something to do with my body that was keeping me physically impaired, then it was my mind that was shattered and horrible. And there were so many, I don't know how many times I would be breaking down from a panic attack, and he'd just be there to help me and staying calm. And now I don't have those anymore. And it's just like, you could physically see the stress on his face and his body, when he was trying to help me not, lose it. And now it's like every day, it's just wonderful in our marriage, I feel like.
That's awesome. And you, like, for me, I felt like less of a man. I mean, do you feel like more of a woman, more feminine, like more attractive, more desirable?
Yeah, I definitely do, because what I who I was before, I feel like I'm, I went from a size, I don't know if you know women's sizes, but for the women watching, I went from a size, that's okay. I had like a 50-inch hips. I had 50-inch hips, and now I'm like 38 or something like that. Like, so from my heaviest to my smallest, I was a size extra large in a shirt. Now I'm a size small. I feel more feminine. Yeah, it's incredible. I definitely feel more feminine. I feel like I can express myself and wear the clothes that I always wanted to wear so that I feel good next to him. Because I feel like when we're together, it's like, I don't know, we're a unit. We have to look good and present ourselves because you never know who you're going to meet. You never know like what connection you're going to have. So yeah, I definitely feel more feminine and more attractive. And I'm really thankful for that because I feel like I'm who I was always supposed to be, what I was always supposed to look like.
That's that's one thing I like to say about this, because I've talked to people, they're like, well, I don't want to lose weight. I just want to get healthy. And that's the right attitude, but this is not really a weight loss diet. It's a body optimization diet. And the body optimization, what it's going to do, it's going to dial your weight into the optimal weight for your body. And that weight you may weigh more. It depends how much muscle you put on, how much bone density you add, how much fat you lose. You'll lose fat. And that's the wonderful thing, because you're going to replace it with stuff that matters, like muscle and bone density. And don't zero in on weight. Zero in on the way your clothes feel and fit. I know I saw some of your videos. You talk about that, which I love, because I have a planning guide on my website for people to plan their carnivore diet, and I have metrics in there that people can, key metrics they can track every month, and none of them have to do with the scale. Not one of them. They have to do with sleep quality. They have to do with mood. They have to do with going outside. Are you motivated to get up off the couch and go for a walk? Are you what? This is the stuff this is the stuff you track, and how your clothes fit. Your weight is just, everyone zeroes in on the weight because that's the sexy thing. Oh, look, all the weight I lost. I don't give a rip about that. It's the energy, it's the life-changing, mental status. It's everything. Your attitude on life. I'm alive again. I'm back. And that's what I was gone. I was gone, and I was on a trip down. And, I could put the brave smile on for people too when I met them, but inside I was horrible. And now inside I feel great. When I wake up, I don't have bad days. I just don't. And that's not something I ever had before. So what about being a carnivore mom? Now, is your family on carnivore? Are they eating ketovore or clean? What are they eating?
Okay, so my son, he started carnivore at 6 months old. And this is around, so 6 months old. And and then this is in the second attempt at carnivore. My daughter started when I was about 5 months in. And so they were eating I was trying to do whole foods, but it wasn't always whole food. It was packaged foods and stuff like that. So they were carnivore. My entire family was carnivore for at least 7 months. Strict Carnivore, because my daughter would not eat meat. She was very picky and very opinionated, and she's only 4 years old, but she's incredibly intelligent. My daughter is very intelligent, but she was really struggling because before that she was only eating pasta, rice, bananas, you name it, all those starchy foods.
Right. Sugary
starchy, and so now I've tapered off a little bit from that because she's now eating more meat, and because I had to get her off, just like as you would an adult. If you're addicted to carbs and sugar, there's no way to moderate that after a while. Then you can see if you can tolerate it. So now I call our family meat-based. They pretty much eat 90% carnivore foods, and then they'll have some fruit.
Well, I think the definition of carnivore is 70% animal-based.
Yeah.
Food. It is, right? So they are carnivore, but they're really animal-based diet.
But the YouTube probably would not categorize them.
They disagree.
Yeah, carnivore police would be wee woo. No, you're not.
I know. So my son's 14, and he did carnivore strict through the summer last year, and now when he's with me, he does whole food almost all the time.
Good.
Now the other day we went out and I got him a burger, and he ate the bun. He had a milkshake with it, and I don't have a problem with the milkshake or the bun. The guy's an athlete; he's in good shape, but he ate fries, and that really bothered me. And I want to tell him, but I don't want to be the dad that beats him up. But the seed oils are the thing that scare me the most, because we know they damage mitochondria, which causes cancer, and we know they have a half-life in your body of like 600 days or something crazy.
Ugh,
so
crazy.
It's like it takes 5 years for them to leave your body when you eat them, which is terrible, right? So anyway, that's the one thing that bothered me. But yeah, being a carnivore dad, when he's with me, I make fries at home for him with sweet potatoes. I cut them up, I fry them in lard, and I put salt on them. And I even eat a couple every now and then. I know, don't say anything, but I've tasted. I just want to make sure they're right. They're like cooked all the way. And I give him the lion's share, and I just have a couple bites. But you know what? I'm never addicted to them. It's not like, oh, I got to have more. Like back in the day, I would knock out some massive fries wherever I went, or onion rings or whatever. It was like the worst. Yeah, fast food's terrible. and I used to think I was doing him right and feeding him healthy by going to Chick-fil-A back in before I was a carnivore, and I thought, well, that's the healthy thing, right? Just like you said, eating salad and stuff. I would go and I'd get a salad there because I was going to eat healthy, and then I would get him like a chicken sandwich and a shake and fries. How awful is that? That is like all seed oil, 100%. Now looking back, I just think that so many people are just so disinformed, I guess. I mean, we thought we were doing the right thing, right? And yes. I was not malicious, but I was poisoning my son, and it feels bad looking back. I wish I would have known, like, your kids are going to grow up knowing this, right? And they can make their choices when they will, but at least they know and they've had real food.
Exactly. And I always want to make a priority of whole foods in my family, because as long as I'll be happy as a mother that I did my job if my kids end up being anywhere on the proper human diet spectrum, anywhere from low carb to carnivore, or if they want to go lion diet, they can. But it's like, and it's always whole food, I would feel proud to know that my efforts, that they saw my efforts, and they learned, and they actually decided to put their body first and their mind first, and not to succumb to these really I kind of call them like sirens, the fast food and the packaged food and all that stuff. They're monsters waiting to like destroy you from the inside out. But I never want to place fear of those foods, because there was a long time as a carnivore mom, I had fear that it's like if we took them out to dinner or something like that, I'd let them eat what they wanted because it's not at home, right? That was kind of like the mentality I had for a while, and it would eat me alive because they're like, oh my gosh, what did I just put into their body? But I've calmed down a lot, and that's
Yeah, it's an interesting thing to deal with kids, because the thing is too, it's hard for them because they're so resilient. They can eat the poison and not feel bad. They can just. I was there. I did that. I mean, I ate. Now, of course, when I was a kid, the fries at all these places were fried in tallow. They weren't fried in seed oils. So the fries were healthier, and the burgers were probably a little healthier. Everything was a little healthier. Still bad. It was just not as bad, right? Now, this stuff, when I look at it, I just see straight up poison. I see straight up, cancer, Alzheimer's, all these things. I just see that being caused by all this stuff. And it's like, man, I don't want that for my son. But he's got to make his own decisions. And
absolutely,
I respect him. He's very intelligent. I respect him. And, I'll let him know how I feel, but I'm not going to be, hovering over him and trying to influence his daily decision making. So that's the difference, I guess. Like when we go on our trip, we're going to go on a summer trip to visit my dad in Alabama. We're driving the new Porsche out there. It'll be a lot of fun. It's super comfortable. But the whole way we're driving, I'm going to be playing some YouTube videos and podcasts on carnivore. So he's going to get exposed.
Good. That's awesome. Yeah.
When I pick him up at school, I have the carnivore podcast going, so he hears it on the way home. So he's going to always have those seeds planted. That's my passive. I guess it's passive aggressive. I don't know. I mean, whatever you call it. It's just whatever. It's about being a dad, right? It's like,
yeah, you're just,
but not be.
Yeah, the kids are going to be influenced by anything. Like with the young kids, you have to be so careful with what they're watching. I'm very protective over that. And every single kids show, they're always singing about how vegetables are good for you. And it's like, it's such a hard narrative to like get away from. And I'm really, like I said, I really limit my kids with what they can watch and how long they can watch, because I don't like screens, which is funny because I do YouTube. But I don't think it's appropriate for kids for a long period of time, like how it is today. Because like I didn't grow up with a screen in my face. I watched TV and that was about it. So it's definitely a different world we're living in, but they're going to be exposed to anything and everything out there. And so I think that's great that you're playing those podcasts. I let my kids see videos, they're starting to learn, like I'll probably have my daughter watch this and be like, what's his name? Like, that's Larry and he's a veteran. And then, talk about how we're eating and stuff like that. And you just have to involve your kids, because it's like, it's a part of your life. Why I think that if they love you and they care about you, they'll have like at least like 5% interest. So they'll probably be like, oh, let's listen too,
Yeah. And I took him to KetoCon with me, and he wasn't really into it because he's kind of out of the diet thing, but he got to meet like Dr. Chafee and Dr. Baker and got to see a lot of cool stuff. He got bored pretty quick, so I took him home, but that was on Saturday, I think. But at least he got exposed to it, and he got to see, the carnivore teacher, and that was great. Anyway, it was very, like I said, I like to expose him to things, and he'll make his decisions later, but he'll always know he can fall back to this. He'll always know what the changes he saw in my life. Yes. I mean, I have changed, and he knows that, and that's always going to be in the back of his mind. He'll know that, have that experience. So if he ever does go down the wrong road and start experiencing bad effects, he can always opt for changing his diet. Now, your husband, is his ulcerative colitis better on the whole food diet that he's eating?
Yes,
is he managing it?
He is managing it. He it's really funny because he's been, since we started dating actually, so we were like 23, now I'm 34. It's been a while. He was on a medication called Remicade, which is an infusion. And it's kind of like a sister drug to chemotherapy. So you can kind of think of it as like, it shuts down his entire immune system, essentially. And it's incredibly, I hate that he was on it for so long, but, he hasn't been on it in like a year. And it was kind of unintentional, because we were like, oh, we're trying to, eat better, eat more meat, and stay away from other things. There's sometimes he deviates from it. He's not as strict as I am, but he's not had any symptoms. Like at all. And it's, I don't want to jinx it. Like, I don't want to talk about it. I'm like, let's see how long this goes, because if he needs to go back on the medicine, because he has a lot, like he doesn't have any ridges in his colon anymore, just due to how painful. And he's had a really hard experience with ulcerative colitis, but he's been fine. Like, what is happening? I know what's happening. He's eating good food.
Eating the right food that we're designed to have. Yeah, our body's designed to eat animal-based fats. That's why we have, I think, 5 organs to handle the fat that we eat, because we're designed to eat that. Pretty crazy, right? Okay, so what are your greatest challenges with carnivore? You said you've gone off it and gone back on now. When you went off, it was kind of like the doctor scaring you. Well, how great is that? I mean, that drives me crazy. My doctor's a vegan, believe it or not. And it's a VA. Well, she's religious vegan because she's Indian.
Oh,
and so it's a little different. She's not like a militant vegan. She's just a vegan because she's an Indian, and that it's her religion.
Right.
And so I was telling her about the dangers of seed oils, and I'm like, can you eat ghee or butter or coconut oil? I said coconut oil is probably the best thing you can eat then, if and maybe avocado oil if it's unadulterated, but so hard to find pure or pure olive oil if it's really unadulterated in a dark bottle, not oxidized. Very hard to find. But if you're going to cook high temperature, probably coconut oil is the best. But anyway, my doctor's telling me like, oh, all this bad advice, and then I come back this year for my physical, and she's like, everything about you is better, everything except for your LDL's high. I'm like, yeah, but LDL being high when you're not metabolically sick is no problem. That is healthy. That is not a problem. My triglycerides are low. I have no metabolic syndrome. My fasting glucose levels low. So LDL alone being high is not a marker for any heart. So it's pretty awesome. And she recognized that. She recognized that, but she's like, I don't know what to do because I got it. Because you could tell over the last couple of years she's getting sicker. she's older now, and I can see she's declining, and she's only in her 40s, maybe, you know, late 40s. I'm like, man, I can see the decline, and it's pretty sad. But what were your greatest challenges? I know that I got off on the doctor thing. What were your greatest challenges with carnivore so far?
No, you're fine. I actually really liked hearing that. I hope that something changes within her, but that's a really hard situation for her to be in. I understand.
Yeah.
A challenge for carnivore was I had to be in the right mindset, because I had a previous, what is the best way to say it? Like, I loved food. I loved eating food. I loved every emotion that I had, happy, sad, angry, bored, whatever. It was tied to food. And so I had to really break that way of thinking, that mindset, and fill it with something else. And I just find that the carnivore foods, that really helped me. But it wasn't until I found the carnivore community, because this is like, my second and final time. I feel like I'm on a good streak now. Like, I'm not going to jinx it or anything like that. But I didn't have the carnivore community, and seeing the stories, I think, really is what helped me stay away from like sugar cravings and searching for substitution foods and hyperpalatable foods, because there are still hyperpalatable foods on carnivore, and I seldom eat them now. But I think that if you're not within a community, one of the greatest challenges is that you feel alone. And even though I have my children and my husband doing it with me, people outside of that look at me like I don't know, like a vegan. No, I'm just kidding. Like it's like I'm doing something so harmful, especially for my kids. They're like, I can't believe you're doing that. You could just moderate. Like, what are you doing? And it's like, I cannot moderate. Maybe I can now, like with keto foods, if I really wanted to, but I just don't right now. Because like I know that keto works for me. What a challenge with keto was I was making keto pizza, and then I was making keto bread, and then I was eating keto protein bars, which is just candy basically. And that was my downfall, because sugar cannot be, unless, like, I think a natural sugar like a fruit can be moderated, but regardless of that those things were really, really hard for me. So yeah, I'm really the community.
I've actually had like slices of apple, because I cut apples up for my son and put peanut butter on them for him. I get peanut butter that's got no seed oils. I get 100% peanut butter.
Good.
And I make him a snack where I'll cut an apple up into slices, put a little peanut butter on there, and put a little salt on there and give it to him. And he loves it. And so I'll eat a slice every now and then, but I never get that sugar high, and I also never get the craving after that. Mm-hmm. So I would not eat like a whole apple probably, but every now and then it's like, yeah, it's not going to hurt you probably to do a little thing like that. Or I eat a blueberry when I get him blueberries, and I rinse them off, and I'll maybe eat one or two, but that's about it. So it's interesting. My relationship with food has changed as well. It's no longer the centerpiece of my entertainment, because it was like, hey, let's go out and try a restaurant. And it's funny, being single, you look at the dating apps, and almost all of them, almost every female out there puts on their finding new restaurants to explore. That kind of stuff is like something that they love as an activity. That's like a number one activity for almost every dating profile I see.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and cooking together. Well, yeah, because it's such a big. It's central. Going out and eating is central, and it's so weird being single and not doing that. It is a challenge for me, I'll be honest, because I've gone on dates, and going on a date, and then they want to order dinner, and it's like, well, I wasn't really planning on eating because I already ate today, and I'm not hungry.
Oh, I can see.
I'll watch you eat. I mean, and then if I do order, I'll order like just a burger patty, and they're having like whatever, and they're like, "Do you want a bite?" I'm like, "No, I'm good." And it's just weird, right? They must think I'm like some extreme person, but it's not fun.
That's hard.
I can tell you that.
That's hard.
It is hard. So I think that you just have to, if you're carnivore, find someone else that's a carnivore too. And, you don't want to try to indoctrinate them into your eating style or whatever, but that's the last thing. It's like trying to get someone to become a Christian or something because you're a Christian, right? Yes. You want them to already be there kind of, and maybe have that in common. That'd be good. But it's so weird. For me, eating is like fueling up at the gas station now. Mm-hmm. And that's about how much entertainment it is for me now too. So like I like to liken it to like, hey, if we got the whole family together and throw them in the car and hey guys, let's go get gas, and you guys can all sit around and watch me put gas in the car, and if you want, you can hold the handle. And that's not entertainment, right? That is fueling the car up to go do something more fun. And this is exactly what eating is now for me. It's fueling the body up so I can do something more fun or more productive. Eating is not fun for me anymore, really, and that's not a problem with me. I just eat because I get hungry and I want to eat quickly and move on. So I love my air fryer. As a single guy, air fryer is great. I can air fry some meat in there and just go.
Nice.
Yeah. So anyway, when you cook meals for your family, do you use like air fryers and stuff, or do you do? I mean, what's your meal planning like? Is it much more simplified than it was before when you were on even keto or regular?
Absolutely. I think that carnivore brings a simplicity to life that I didn't expect. As a homemaker and a wife and a mother, there's a lot of things that go on in a woman's brain. You'll see a lot of jokes about that online. It's like we're thinking about the dishes and then the laundry and then helping with the homework and then, thinking about, all the social things with our friends. And, there's a lot of moving pieces when you're a homemaker. And I feel it's a breath of fresh air that carnivore brings because it is so simple. Like incredibly simple. It's all whole food ingredients. I don't use any fancy gadgets. I use my oven. I use my stove. I have a toaster oven. Like that's it. And if I need to, I'll have a mixer if I want to make whipped cream or something like that for the kids. But that's really rare. And, a breakfast will be sausage and some bacon and some eggs and and maybe some yogurt and some berries. And then that's breakfast. Like you literally just either cook it in a pan or stick it all in a sheet pan and stick it in the oven, like just one, and you're just like, okay, bacon, okay, great, boom, 20 minutes, done. And then there's leftovers too, which is great. And then lunch could be burger patties with more bacon or or fish. Like I had some salmon with butter and a little tiny bit of cream cheese because I love cream cheese, and like boom, lunch is done. The salmon cooks in like 10 minutes in the oven. Like, it's incredible, like how simple it is. And I had actually made my latest video. I talked about how simple homemaking has become, especially since I was living with a lot of stress in my old home with a lot of plumbing issues. We just moved here about a week or two ago. And it's now even more simple because now I have a sink that functions and I have a dishwasher and I can wash clothes, and there's just so many things that I'm so thankful for, and the simplicity is definitely one of them. It's incredible.
Yeah, I love a couple things here. One is when I go grocery shopping now, it's speed checkout every time, 15 or less always, if not self-check. Self-check's my go-to normally. So, and it's usually I go to the gym and then I just drive by the grocery store and stop and buy 2 or 3 things. That's all I need. And I drive home. I don't ever have a basket full of stuff other than water. I'll get water from an ice machine or something, like distilled water. That's the only big stuff I get, or I get sparkling water.
Right.
They have sparkling water there, and I'll get those. That's the only big stuff I get. And the other thing I notice is, I generate way less trash. I have 1 bag a week that I take out, even if it's not full, because it's like, okay, I got to take this out. And, because it's got like egg shells in it and stuff. So, and then the other thing is I have barely any trash. And then doing dishes, I don't have nearly as many dirty dishes because, like you said, you cook with one item and one thing, and then you don't have like 5 pots and pans and prep bowls and all this stuff's gone, right? My prep bowls all sitting, they're gathering dust in the cabinet.
Exactly.
And I know, and my pantry was empty because I threw away most stuff in my pantry. So now I moved like a lot of the stuff that I used to use, toaster and all this stuff, into the pantry. I can't envision ever using a toaster again, but like a regular toaster, pop. And then doing dishes. Now the dishes, there is more fat on you got to use more soap and scrub it a little better, but it's easier. I mean, because it's less and the plates too, but it's just, I don't even use my dishwasher anymore. I do everything by hand. It's just easier.
Oh, that's great.
Just to knock it out, and being single and with my son even is pretty easy to do. But that's it. That's my experience with doing the carnivore, simplifying my life. Okay, so what was the most unexpected thing you experienced the carnivore? Like, what blew you away the most that you did not expect?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Okay. So I like to say this, carnivore is cheaper than therapy. And I feel like since I've, it's so silly, but I feel like since I've been on carnivore, I can now really dig deep and figure out where, because I have a lot of like internal anger from people in my life that, who did wrong by me, or I was told a lot when I was a child that made me, and this still gets me really upset, like, you talk too much, you're not very intelligent, you're so bubbly, your head is in the clouds. And so I had difficulty, and I held all this anger in, like, so I have this like perfectionistic kind of thing where it's like I want to do things perfectly, I want to do it right. And if I mess up, I like tear myself apart because I'm like, oh, I'm just all those things that people said to me when I was little. And I confronted those people who had said those things to me, and it was always like, oh, they didn't mean it. Like, it was unintentional. It was just like oh, you were so cute, and it just seemed like you're always with your head in the clouds and stuff like that. It's like, no, your words that you say to your children, even if you don't mean it, like, you're not trying to be malicious, it really can hurt somebody. And so one of the unexpected things from carnivore is being able to look back on those things and realize when I get triggered and when I'm feeling like, and especially as a mom, like, because I have toddlers, and so they have these outbursts and stuff like that. And I've learned that the reason why I want to control them is because I can't control myself. And I feel like a lot of parents tend to like blow up or get really upset. And I've been there, and it's really hard sometimes when you don't realize that you're being triggered from something that your child does. And now I'm so aware of it. Now I'm just like, wow, I'm getting upset over this thing. And now I can take a step back. I can breathe, I can think about it, and I can be a better mother now. And I can have better communication. And if I mess up, I fess up to it. And I don't pretend like nothing bad happened. I'm the parent. There's nothing, I can't do anything wrong. I apologize if I mess up, but I was like, you know what? I got really angry back there. And that's not your fault. This is my fault because this is something mommy's working on. And so it's like, where did that come from? It's awesome.
Your brain just started working properly. I mean,
yes.
It's really
I'm not in
what
fight
it
or
is.
flight mode anymore.
No, and yeah, I think when you talk about the brain's functionality, I love Dr. Chafee talking about it, like all these different synapses firing off to each other, and they're all on perfect timing. And when you eat bad food, it starts misfiring, and people can't think straight, and they aren't optimal. They aren't acting like they're designed to be acting. They're acting in a inferior way, and I think I was there too. So yeah, I think mental health, it goes beyond just anxiety being gone. And the anxiety, I think, was because you weren't able to handle things. You handle them better, so you don't have the anxiety. I think you don't experience it, me anyway, as much as I did. I'd get anxiety like driving and stuff. Like, I get all angry. I think that's why I have all this road rage. People are just, I grew up, we didn't have road rage in the 70s. I never even heard of it until like the 90s, I think, is when it started becoming a big thing. And that's the diet thing that started that. But I think it really did. I think people's brains just started going off the reservation a little bit. All right, so let's talk about your YouTube channel. YouTube channel is at Nourishment Redacted. I'll bring it up there. It is right there, Ellie at Nourishment Redacted. Like and subscribe and check her stuff out. But why did you start that? I know you said because you saw Carrie. Is that basically all there was to it?
Yeah, he's the one that had inspired me. I actually started a YouTube channel, a different channel, when I was 17 years old, and I was doing vlogs, and I was really into editing videos and making and doing graphic design. And I had this, and I used to, when I was a little kid, I used to make I used to record all the home videos and do skits with my cousins, and I was a very creative kid in that aspect. And eventually I learned to have a love of writing. And I feel like the YouTube channel has been an amalgamation of all those loves. I love painting, and I love, creating. And so Unfortunately, my YouTube channel when I was 17 years old did not last long because my mother saw it and then she made me delete the whole thing. And I thought that YouTube would save my videos forever, but when I closed my account, I realized, oh, all my videos are gone now. See, I don't know what I was doing. And I deleted them off my computer, so I unfortunately do not have any of those. I have like very few clips, which sucks because I had made like 70 videos or something like that at the time. But my YouTube channel is, I want to help spread the message of, that you don't have to be sick anymore, especially for children. So I have on my channel, I have a podcast that I do called Mother Knows Best. I invite a carnivore mom to come on, and they can be like low carb or keto, somewhere anywhere in the proper human spectrum, human diet spectrum. And I like to invite them on and talk about why they decided to go against the status quo, why they have changed how they changed their lives with it, and how does it affect their children? Because that was a question that I had when I was, I started eating carnivore, and my son turned 6 months old, and I'm like, what am I doing? Am I doing the right thing here? And I think it's something that a lot of parents don't talk about. And especially moms, if they're really concerned or confused about what is the right foods to feed. And then on my channel, I wanted to just share my carnivore journey as well. So I have carnivore diet updates, and this past, if someone's watching and they want to see my 1 year update, I lost 30 pounds and 33 inches off my body in 1 year. So, and you can see, in my updates, I do all the measurements and everything like that. And I also have a live stream show called Lioness Lifestyle Live. I go on every Tuesday, and we're totally going to take over your channel, Larry, and it's on the Wednesday, and that should be a lot of fun. We invite a meat-based woman to come on, and we allow her to have a chance to share her story and talk about the incredible changes that she's seen in her life due to diet. And yeah, that's I just want to share and help as many people as possible who might have been suffering just like me.
So have you seen the video on this blog? On this podcast, I did a interview with Darlene Beth, who had a severe ADHD child, and she went against. Yeah, so watch that. Okay, go back into my channel. Look, and it's all we talk about is the ADHD, getting him off Ritalin, getting him off all these. He was suicidal at like 8 years old. He said, "Mom, I don't want to live anymore," and because he was on all these drugs. This is a great doc, and you need to get her on your show. But first, you need to watch that interview. She's really good, and she took a stand against her family, who are all nurses and such, and they were like, They basically said, "You're removing what he needs to succeed by taking the drugs away. You're hurting him." And she had to take a stand by herself. She's not married, and she just said, "I'm just doing what I think's right, because I don't think giving my son, methamphetamine is for the rest of his life is a good thing." And he had never, I believe, gotten above a C+ on any of his grades, and he had D's and C's. The first report card after being carnivore for I think 6 months was A's and B's. I mean, complete change. So it's so huge.
I need to watch that.
What a brave mother. What a brave mother. I mean, so yeah, check out, it's in I only have like 10 videos on this podcast, so you'll find it. But it's The Carnivore Way. There's a playlist, and find Darlene Beth, ADHD mom. That's a really good one. Okay, so look, I have a video where I talk about how not to fail. And I talk about, how people say, well, I can't do it. I always, slip up. And then I bring up the fact that if we opened up an escrow account and I put $25,000 in that escrow account, would you have any problem making it 31 days on this diet if you knew you got that $25,000 at the end of the month? And I guarantee you, no one would have a problem. Even if it was Christmas and they had to go to a party, they probably just wouldn't go, or they'd go and they would be very strict because they knew they'd lose $25,000, right, if they didn't. So it's really about the why. It's not about they can't do it. So I have a question I want to ask you. If I were to offer you $25,000 now to go back to standard American diet and never do carnivore, would you take it?
No, absolutely not. I wouldn't give up anything. I wouldn't give
you
up
couldn't
anything
pay
in the
me.
world to go back to what I was before. I was a shell of a person. Like, money comes and goes in life, but your health is always going to, your mind, your body, your soul, how you're taking care of it, how you're taking care of the people around you. That is so much more important than material things. And so thank you for the money, but I'll say no thank you. I
Yeah,
love that question.
yeah, it's just, that's the thing. I love that question because it puts things in perspective with people, and not everyone values money like that, but a lot of people do. And $25,000 is not a little amount, but I think when you're on the carnivore diet and you change your life so much, I can easily make $25,000 more in a year if I want to, by being more productive, by doing things differently. I mean, I have so much more energy. I'm on top of things. And before that wasn't the case. So no one could pay me $25,000, $50,000, even $100,000 to go back. I would not. I would not go back. It would be the end of my life. I know that. And I don't want to go to that deterioration. I want to be like a finely tuned Ferrari my whole life and then just die the last day, whatever day it is. I don't care, but it's like, boom, go from 100% functionality to 0 and, wake up in heaven. That's the way I want to be. I don't want to be gradually getting sicker and gradually getting weaker and less capable of doing things. So, that there is an option. You don't have to go that route. And that's what this is all about. So, well, Ellie, this has been really good. We got a few more minutes. I'm just going to give you the floor. If you were to talk to somebody who's watching this video, who's just checking out carnivore and has never done it, what advice would you give them and how to get started or how to, move forward in healing themselves?
Absolutely. So if I were to speak to someone who was just starting out on carnivore and they needed that motivation, I would let them know that you don't have to be in pain anymore. You don't have to essentially be suffering and allowing this franken food, that's what I like to call it, all this processed food, this fake food, and these traditions that we put on, like every birthday you have to have cake, and it's like you don't have to succumb to those things and those expectations, because those expectations, they're not easy to live up to. Yeah, you could eat the birthday cake every year and for every single loved person that you know, and then on top of that, then you start eating ice cream at the end of the night, and then it just continues to get worse. And so I would challenge them, I would ask them, I would think, what is more important to you in life? What wouldn't it be great? And then if there was some, like, say they had type 2 diabetes or they had arthritis, like, wouldn't it be amazing if you could get off your medication? Wouldn't it be amazing if you could, walk and start using your hands like you used to? And I would really like to show that perspective of you can live a different life, essentially. And what are you going to do to get that? And I think that if we remember our pain, then we can take the steps forward so that we don't have to continue to live that pain. And there's hope there. And that hope is so, so powerful. And if they're like, well, where do I start? How do I do this? I would say just start slowly. Just pick one type of food. If you're, take away the bread and continue to eat like that for a week. Then take away the pasta and eat like that for a week. Stop eating fast food. If you're drinking alcohol, stop doing that too. There's just so many things that can be potentially holding you back in life, and your life is worth it. Your life is worth it, and you deserve to be the best version of yourself. And I would get really immersed in listening and learning as much as you can from the doctors and the real life stories, and just know that you can be one of those success stories too. And that's my encouragement to them.
Yeah, that's really good stuff. I agree with it all. I think the first things I would cut out, if I were to cut out food, would be seed oils, number one. Dump out all your seed oils. Don't use them. Cook with animal fats. That's the first thing. Even if you're going to cook bad food, cook with animal fats. And then cut out sugar and alcohol. For me, I didn't cut it out initially. I cut it out over time. And it's interesting because I know it's not just me, but a lot of people, their bad habits / addictions fall away on this diet. And it's
Mhm.
because it's a fasting mimicking diet, and fasting does help with addictions. I mean, we're talking gambling addictions, pornography addictions, alcohol addictions. People, they are freed of these addictions with diet, which is crazy because your brain actually starts working right, and it doesn't seek that outside dopamine hit because your body's just, it's making all it needs, and you just feel good. So it's crazy. But I know a lot of people have experienced it, not just me. I don't drink nearly like I used to, and I've known people that quit smoking from it and never set out to. They just stopped buying cigarettes when they ran out.
Mhm.
Crazy, man, because I quit smoking back, decades ago, and it was really hard. And then, like me, when I ran out of bourbon, I just stopped buying bourbon. I'm like, I just don't feel like going out and buying it. I don't want to drink it tomorrow, so why should I buy a bottle? And it's really, really strange. So, yeah, I agree. If you're going to dial stuff back, I would just start with like seed oils and
Mhm.
breads and stuff. You can cut that stuff out, and all processed food. Throw away cereal,
Yes.
throw away protein bars, all that garbage, and just eat real whole food. That's really the way to go. Well, it's been great, Ellie. I'm going to drop you off. I'm going to say goodbye to everybody. If you want to stick around, we can chat for a few minutes afterwards. Okay.
Okay. Thank you
All
so
right.
much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, it was great. Okay. All right, guys. Another great podcast here, The Carnivore Way. We really appreciate Ellie. She's got a great story and has a lot to offer. Please check her channel out. And all I got to say, guys, is stay strong and overcome. Carnivore Soldier out.